I would like to introduce to you briefly to introduce Excellentia team. So it's the ERA chair. This is Douglas Goodbold. So the Douglas welcome in this session. So as I said to you, I'm the project coordinator, and Pavlína Pancová, it's deputy project coordinator, and working package leaders is Alena Bečová and Elena Šomilová. So and financial management is Jindřiška Ruba. And I would like to introduce International Scientific Advisor Board. So it's the members of this International Scientific Advisor Boards. It's Eleonora Bonifacio from the Department of Agriculture, Forest and Food Sciences, University di Torino. Isabella Beria. Isabella, thank you very much and welcome. Division of Biotechnology and Plant Health, Norwegian Institute of Bioeconomy Research. The Michal Marek, he is a member of the Royal Swedish Academy of Agriculture and Forestry, and the home institution is a global change. It's a Global Change Research Institute of the Czech Academy of Science in Brno, Czech Republic. Šaurovič from Institute of Lowland Forestry and Environment in Novi Sad in Serbia, as then led division of Forest Pathology, Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, Sweden. Within this project, so we have some visions. We have to change something, but at this moment, my vision as a dean, it's an open Faculty of Forestry of the Wood Technology for the new ideas, new people, and as well as some other visions. It's optimal infrastructure and the using of infrastructure which is already present at Faculty of Forestry, Mendel University, but as well in the Brno research area. Brno is a great center of the science in the Central Europe with a perfect position, not far away from some other center of the research from Vienna, support the postdocs and ERC applicants. So we have quite strong visions, and we would like to push a little bit the quality of the scientific teams at the Faculty of Forestry and at the Mendel University in Brno in the advance. Yeah. And what we would like to keep, especially this is a sustainability of international research team. So we have some experience from previous research projects, the national one and international one. We are not starting from ground zero. Also, we have some experiences from Horizon project, like the As4Click, Emphasis HOMED, and My Sustainable Forest. Following as well our experiences from Center of the Excellence, Phytophthora Research Center, Interreg project, mostly some bilateral project, as well as some projects are in the Interreg Europa. So we are using the opportunities of national funds, like is Czech Science Foundation, like this National Agency for Agriculture Research and the Technological Agency of the Czech Republic. This is national funds, yeah. And we are building on the already mentioned the research infrastructure, the capacity. So this is a laboratory and staff in the laboratories. In these slides, you can find some research and development missions and headlines. This is generally the missions and the headlines in our faculty. ERA-Chair project, this is an opportunity to change something in the structure of the faculty as an independent and excellent research team under the supervising of the ERA-Chair, the Douglas Goodbold. So we are not only the Faculty of Forestry, we are not only Faculty of the Wood Technology, but as well we are in the Faculty of the Landscaping. We are Faculty of the Arboriculture, and we are the faculty which is building now as well some integration, nature conservation. This is just slide about the University Forest Enterprise. So this is a forest, as I did this mention, 11,000 hectares. So, and we would like to study there some risk of the dispersion by the heterogeneous forest structure. They applied several different model of the forest management, and we would like to use it for our research.
I will walk you through Excellencia mission, and I will try my best to be quick as possible to get back on the time track. As was already mentioned in the visions, we first evaluate our specific needs, what the faculty needs to be changed to be more sustainable, more competitive, and more coherent institution. And we identify that there is a need to provide a better training and better background to the new generation of the researchers. That's one of the big part. We also need to valorize the existing infrastructure and also to narrow the research and innovation gap. We also realize it's not possible that we do that by ourselves. So the external input is just a must, and we need to bring the role model, which will help us to cultivate the institution to actually create an excellent interdisciplinary research group, which will be guided by outstanding scientists and focus on the climate change, on the sustainability, on methods to ensure the forest sustainability, and also to show what are our potentials. We will build on existing investments and on the also research program developed at the faculty. To be able to give the FAIR group the most prior status, it will eventually, within the 36 months, become on the same level as the other departments, and it will also ensure that the FAIR group continues after the Excellencia project is concluded. Excellencia is not about the research, and Douglas will talk about the research more, but it's also about the structural changes, which the Lighthouse created by Excellencia will help us to spread the light through the faculty. That means that we will focus on the sustainable research and innovation, on the intellectual property rights, research data management as the data are huge issues, and we carry exceptional amount of the data from the forestry and training enterprise, but also we need to utilize those data and then actually focus on the career guidance for our new generation of the postdoc and doctoral candidates and give them a better starting point when they are working and applying for the jobs and conducting their activities within the European research area. If we manage, we will trigger two impacts which are on the level of the scientific level, and that means that the increased publications, that we will actually move towards the publication in the first decile and also increase our success rate while applying for the competitive funding. What is the green line through the whole project is also the focus on the quality, and we aim to establish the ERC pipeline at the faculty. ERC is always about the shaking the institution, making better, making more in line with the era priorities, and also narrowing the research and innovation gap, that there are expected results, tangible results at the end of the Excellencia. And this is just a snapshot which we hopefully to achieve through those 5 years when the Excellencia is going to take place. We also have an announcement as Excellencia is at this point a little bit faceless, as you can see on this slide. So we decided to make it more tangible for our students and colleagues that we will actually call the Logger competition. The call will open on 25th of May, close on 30th of August. We give it to students, especially students and young researchers at the university, possibility to give an Excellencia face and to actually more think what Excellencia can mean.
What I would like to do is just give an overview of this, of work package 1, which is about scientific excellence. We can probably get into a long discussion about what excellence is, but what's the background to it? Well, something now that's completely obvious. We live in a very rapidly changing world, and certainly in terms of forest ecosystems. And I'm sure many of you will have read this report several days ago about we're likely to reach the 1.5 degree target, which we're not supposed to exceed already in 4 years' time, which is a desperately frightening piece of news. But in terms of forests, then it's not so much the global mean temperatures and global change measured just by temperature that's important. It's events and extreme events. And again, this was a vague ecological term 5 years ago, but you only have to look again on the news and look in Italy and you realize what an extreme event is. Long periods of drought, long periods of rain, increasing soil moisture, heat waves and so on are the factors that really control a lot of the changes that we have in ecosystems, and in our case in forest ecosystems. With this, that's the basic background of what we want to look at. We will of course look at none of these things I have on the screen. What's the role? What's the role of the work package 1? I didn't put the aims and the objectives as we've written into the proposal, because you can read these. But what is the role of the scientific work? Well, it's to build a focal point. Build a focal point around which we can build the ecosystem research group and deliver this pathway to scientific excellence. But it's also a focal point. It builds a focal point for the faculty and beyond the faculty, where hopefully we can, in this time, attract a lot of researchers from inside and outside of Europe to come and work with us. To put this together, I tried to come up with one sentence that maybe says what for me the science is about, and it's for young scientists in particular is to promote creativity, and to promote creativity in a systems-based approach. So in a systems-based approach of not looking absolutely just at one issue, but having awareness that particularly for forests, we're looking at a multi-factor, multi-scale system. Work package itself is divided, for those of you who've never read it, is divided down into a number of tasks. And I'll say a few words to each one of these tasks as we go along. And so we're looking at aspects like soils and fungal communities, interactions between tree roots and pathogens, ecological stability of trees, and healthy forests and society's needs. And that last part is then this definition of the annual research plan, which is pretty much where all of this information flows into. But let me say a few words to each one of these. Where are we going to do it before we start? Well, I would like to see that the focus is put on this university forest enterprise. Why? Because I believe it's a fairly unique place. For those that don't know this, the majority of the people do actually, but anyway, we have a unique mixture of different tree species and silvicultural prescriptions. The wonderful thing about this forest is that it occurs across 3 different soil types. It's highly replicated and it's old, which makes it, as having worked for many, many years on tree diversity experiments, a fairly unique place. It's strange that it's not that well known throughout Europe, but that's obviously something we will change. And using what we have as an already established sites, we'd like to perhaps find an idea of what being able to define what ecologically stable future forests might be. Work package 1, where we're looking at soils and fungal communities, and in my case, and primarily probably in the case of Excellencia, we're looking at mycorrhizal communities, which you can see here as examples. So we're looking for fundamental questions again, as how do changes in soils influence fungal communities, and is there any link between the fungal community and ecosystem function and stability? The next thing is then interactions between tree roots and root pathogens. And why is this in there? Well, because as already been said, this is an aspect, particularly pathogens, of which the Mendeleev has a great strength. The faculty has a great strength, and so of course we would like to build upon this in sort of this classic disease triangle, looking at environment and hosts and pathogens. But we want to take a few more specific aspects and certainly a few more new aspects. So particularly not just environment, but of soil properties. The host aspect is pathogens don't really see the host in terms of invading roots. They see the fungal symbionts most times. So how does this how do these interactions occur? And then lastly, some very exciting things of new pathogens or new factors that affect the fungal symbiosis. In particular, one that really caught my attention are viruses. I'm sure we're all quite aware now how important viruses are and what effects they can have, and then particularly then our knowledge about what they can do in forests and what they can do to fungal symbionts is extremely limited. The next one was then ecological stability, and again, what does that mean? Well, it means, can we develop forests that are able to withstand different stresses, in particular some things like temperature stress or drought stress, and is it more advantageous to have mixtures of trees, and if so, which mixtures of trees, and can we then produce systems that have a greater resilience to stress, which is what this shows on this side as a typical visualization of tipping points within forests and at which point a forest begins to change. So, and what I forgot to say probably is that very interesting to do this not only for physical changes in the environment, but also biological changes in the environment. So if we think about what's gone on in terms of bark beetle calamities in the Czech Republic and most of Europe, it's not difficult to visualize that we have a particular tipping point within an ecosystem once we reach a certain specific load of bark beetles, for example. And moving on to task 4, well, the next one is what do forests need to be healthy, but also what does society need from forests? I've spent quite a lot of time working on aspects within a biodiversity project of Dr. Forest, of actually the health effects of forests on people. Not only do what forests do we need to be ecologically stable, and what mycorrhizas do we need to produce ecologically stable forests, but are these ecologically stable forests of benefit to society? This should also, of course, include production, not only multi-diverse people walking through the forest. Trying to get an idea on all of society's requirements of forests and matching this into what the forests of the future might be. And then a pathway to excellence. So what is the thought of a pathway to excellence? Well, I tried to put this together in a few ideas. I think that one of the ways to doing excellent research is being able to recognize the question, to recognize fundamental questions in ecology. And I strongly believe that no matter how practical a question is that we're asking, it always has a fundamental ecological question in it. And skill is being able to recognize what the fundamental question is, and then dividing a research project that was able to answer this question. Then the next one is question and hypothesis-driven research. So once we know what the question is, we come up with a hypothesis of how we're going to answer this question. And I wrote this as a sort of a fairly flippant sentence of not measure and hope, but think and measure. We do a lot of research where we go out and say, oh, let's measure that. And then afterwards we have a data set and we pray that this data set hangs together and it gives us the answer we want. A better idea is to think about what we need to measure first and go out and measure it and hope and try to answer the specific question. And then the last thing is is presentation skills to be a successful scientist. And this again, as a flippant sentence, it is about storytelling and looking good. It's about recognizing what the story is in your publication and being able to tell the story in your publication, and not necessarily personally looking good, or that probably helps as well, but also making sure that the paper looks good. Does it contain the right amount of data that you're actually using to answer your question? And does it not contain tons of data that is not relevant to the paper whatsoever? Actually, relatively simple things on how to present and how to publish material. And lastly, a final thought, quite scary if you're trying to meet the deliverables as written in the proposal, is that we have this last thing, which is the task 5, which you probably noticed I didn't immediately address, which is this annual research plan. And I think one of the things that should come out of Excellencia is this promotion of creativity. And this promotion of creativity, I hope, will result in that probably we do not exactly do what is written in the proposal. And more to the point, I would be willing to say that if after 5 years we do exactly what is written in the proposal, then I have failed miserably, because I would hope that in 5 years' time, we have a lot better ideas of what we want to do and a lot more exciting ideas than the ideas we have now.